the NNPC Limited has announced plans to resume crude oil exploration activities there, and says it's also plans to complete the gas pipeline from Ajokuta to Kanu. And there's a new online citizenship and business management platform introduced by the federal government. The goals are to streamline business permit applications, assist foreign companies in hiring skilled workers, and simplify Nigerian citizenship applications. You can check the platform online at the Ministry of Interior's website. It's interior.gov.ng. There you will see an expatriate quota system for managing work permits and the citizenship administration system to ease the citizenship application process. The Interior Ministry says this is part of Nigeria's effort to leverage technology for improved public service delivery. The government has also introduced Service-Wise GPT, that's Service SERVICE, Wise WISE GPT, an AI tool to enhance civil service operations. In addition, the government is also developing a portal to digitize 75% of government services by 2027. And the Central Bank of Nigeria has cut back its lending significantly. The bank reduced its loans and receivables by over 4 trillion naira, mainly by decreasing its overdrafts to the federal government. These overdrafts, known as the Ways and Means provision, are short-term loans the central bank gives to the government to help with temporary funding issues. But the previous administration of President Muhammadu Buhari borrowed more than it was supposed to, raising concerns about financial management. To address this, the National Assembly turned over 22.7 trillion naira of these short-term loans into long-term debts. And finally, on the business stories that we are keeping our eyes on, the restaurant chain Tantalizers is venturing into the entertainment and digital content space. The publicly traded business announced the acquisition of Grand Media Projects Limited, an entertainment company founded by TV and film veteran Tade Ogidon. This was shared in a report published on the NGX over the weekend. Tantalizers was founded 28 years ago in Festac Town. And now let's move on to the big issue that we are following this Monday morning. It's the annual CEO survey conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers PwC. The 28th annual survey from Resilience to Reinvention was released this month and based on responses from nearly 5,000 chief executive officers around the world, including Nigeria. One of the insights is that about 60% of CEOs anticipate a rise in economic growth over the next 12 months. This is up from 38% in last year's global survey. I have with me here in the studio Mr. Pedro Omontuemhen. He is a partner and the West Market Area Clients and Markets Leader at PwC. Glad to have you here, sir.
Yes, Hilary, thanks so very much. Happy to be here this afternoon.
Oh, sorry. Like I said, I have my guest today is Mr. Pedro Omontuemhen. He's a partner and the West Market Area Clients and Markets Leader at PwC. Glad to have you here, sir.
Yeah, Hilary, thanks to be here. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the methodology used in coming up with this survey. 5,000 CEOs around the world.
Yeah.
How many of them were surveyed here in Nigeria, and how did that happen?
Okay, so the survey is done annually, usually between around the last quarter of the year. And this year, like you said, over 5,000 or close to 5,000 CEOs across the world. And these are CEOs in all sectors of the economy, from company-led businesses to multi-billion dollar companies. So Nigerian participated. They've always participated, but for the first time in Nigeria, we're having a Nigeria-centric report because of the numbers of CEOs that participated in this year's report.
Is there an approximate number, ballpark points of how many CEOs you surveyed here in Nigeria?
I think we surveyed about 100 CEOs who participated in the process, and that gives us a feel. And because also CEOs across the various sectors of the economy, we think the information we have is kind of reliable, reflective of the views of the CEOs.
So, contrary to what we see around, about 60% of the CEOs surveyed globally are optimistic. They anticipate economic growth in the next 12 months, next year.
Yes.
And that is 61% here in Nigeria.
Yes.
What could be responsible for this optimism, seeing that, if you look at the oil price, it's falling below the budget benchmark for the year, and Nigerians, everybody's complaining about inflation. So that means there is less money to spend. Why are these CEOs optimistic? Okay,
here, like I said, I think the survey was conducted in the last quarter of 2024. And if you know that quarter, the oil price was still in the 80s. But even with that, I think it's so clear that the Nigerian CEOs are very, very optimistic. And, like you said, the Nigerian people are happy people. I think we believe that things are going to be much better. And also, in addition to that, because of the policies that was
even though we've actually fallen lower in the happiness index.
Yeah, but we're still happy people.
Yeah,
compared to the rest of the world, we're still very, very happy. Nigeria is quite sunny and people are happy. So I think if you look at the policies put in by the government, I think CEO will be optimistic that if those policies are implemented, things will be better.
Oh, so like what policies? Do you have any? What policies are the CEOs talking about?
So, for example, if you look at just the executive orders that were signed by President Tinubu, if you look at the tax reform that finally signed now after all the initial back and forth, there all of those and the ease of doing business. Because I think a lot of the CEOs who believe that the current administration is very, very pro-business, and that optimism aided to their hoping and believing that the future will be much better than it was.
Oh, so it sort of looks like they're at the variance with the rest of Nigeria, because I'm wondering what they are saying. But from your report, we see your report alluded to troubling things have been happening around the world.
Yes,
that have shaken CEOs.
Absolutely.
Like the Trump tariffs and counter tariffs and trade wars here and there.
Yeah.
And how are CEOs adapting?
Okay, so thanks. So if you look at the report, we have called it from resilience to reinvention. So the CEOs, instead of putting their hands and just sitting down, they are just reinventing their businesses. They are looking for new markets. They are looking for new customer base. They are looking for new route to market. They are looking for how to do things better and different from what it currently is. So the things may be tough, and like somebody says, even in the darkness, there's still bright lights. So the Nigerian CEOs are saying, okay, where are there opportunities? What can we do better? What can we do differently from what they're currently doing? Because we can't just put our hands and then wait for us to be eaten up. We need to do something.
So you talked about them asking where are the opportunities, and I want to ask you, you're a consultant.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you advise CEOs and senior execs around the country.
Yeah.
Where are the opportunities in Nigeria?
So let me start from the news you just gave us about a company trying to move from the food business to entertainment.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've done their due diligence. They can see their opportunities there. So, I mean, all over the country, for example, we talk about power in Nigeria. People say there are opportunities to make money in power, either from solar energy or from generator. There are opportunities there. So all across the value chain, in education, in oil and gas, just name it, we see opportunities, and the CEOs see opportunities to make money from entertainment to media. They see opportunities everywhere. A lot of us Nigerians see the gloom and the doom and the darkness, but I believe, and the CEO believe, that even in those gloom and doom is the opportunity to make money.
So I don't know if can it be specific. Are there specific industries where there are more opportunities to make money this year than say last year or 2 years ago? And are there industries or sectors where you think people are going to struggle? Okay,
so let's look at the sectors where I think there is, and everybody can see it. Let's start from agriculture, for example. We're not encouraging export. Okay, because of the devaluation of the currency, if you exported gari, exported ginger, exported cashew, you're going to make more money in USD terms than if you sold it locally. So there's an opportunity in agriculture. In education, we've seen more private universities being set up, because if parents can no longer take their children to Europe or America, they're going to keep their children here in private schools. So there's opportunity.
And we're also seeing more UK boarding houses setting up here in Nigeria.
Yeah, obviously, those guys must be seeing something we are not seeing. They must be seeing something. So there are opportunities here in education, in agriculture, of course, obviously oil and gas, where a lot of Nigerians like to make. There's opportunities there. If you want to invest in CNG, in gas, monetization, there are opportunities. So I think the CEOs are seeing things that the rest of us are not seeing. That yes, times are tough, but tough times don't last. Like you said, tough people do.
But are there industries where you think companies and chief executives might struggle over the next few years?
Yes. If people get poorer, then if you're focused only on the rich people, then you may not be able to make money. So I mean, you probably need to reinvent yourself. How can I reach the middle class, who are able to afford my goods? So if you're selling luxury goods, you may struggle. But if you're selling essential products, people are going to need they're going to need food, they're going to need clothing, they're going to need housing.
So does it mean that this is not a good time to invest in the luxury business? Or?
But you need to do your due diligence, because they see a small 1% of 1%.
Okay. And I went through your study, and I realized that some of the CEOs are talking about the disruption that artificial intelligence is causing, and how would you say Nigerian companies are adapting to the rise of AI?
You cannot but respond to AI. It has come to stay. you cannot but respond. So most of the CEOs we survey said, look, they're already doing something because we know AI has come to stay. So whether from just your chat, using ChatGPT, for example, to do your report and your research, you have to respond to it. Most customer services now have a chat box where you can chat and they respond to you because it's 24/7. So I think the Nigerian CEOs, particularly the banks, for example, they have no option. Otherwise, you'll be totally wiped out. So they know this has come to stay and they are responding. They're investing heavily in it. They're showing interest. They're reading about it. They're investing in it. The people are attending courses. You have to respond. This is the new thing for the world.
But is there any sign of fear when you survey the CEOs? Was there any sort of apprehension that some of their best hands might leverage on AI to leave their firms, start up on their own, and beat them?
Okay, so there are two things when it comes to staff. First of all,
I'm asking this question because I realize I've been doing some research myself. Now, don't tell my boss this.
Okay.
I know I'm on public radio, but I'm realizing that I could do more digitally voice without setting up all of this.
Absolutely, because you now have the AI that can help to generate voice, text to voice and all of that.
Yes.
So that's going to happen. It's for your first of all, for employers to know that this is happening and invest in it, invest in you so that you continue to work for the company and put in your best. But with resources, we find that in Nigeria, for example, this is even without the survey, we knew that people are leaving, the best hands are leaving, and therefore this one of the worries for the CEOs that they have to continue to invest in skilled resources. Yes, we have a lot of graduates, but they're not exactly the same quality as experience. So the experiences are leaving, and then you're always recruiting, always investing, and that's going to be an issue for the CEOs for the next foreseeable future.
Well, personally, I want to ask you this: yes. How much disruption do you think AI is going to cause?
I think there's going to be a lot of disruption. Do we fully know the extent of the disruption? I'm not sure anybody can tell you this is the full extent of the disruption. But will there be disruption? Yes. This is the new phase of our life, and it's something that we have to embrace. From medicine to agriculture to education, it is here to stay. It is here to stay.
Or maybe it's just about time the CEO start giving more equity to smart staff.
They should. They should think of ways to retaining smart staff. They have to think of that. If you're a CEO today and you're not thinking of how do I encourage my people to stay, then you are doing the wrong thing, because the competition is not global. Okay, yeah, so ahead of Nigerians, and you probably know people who are here in Lagos, but they are working for some companies in the UK or in the US.
Yes.
So your competition is global. So you can no longer say you don't have a choice. Your workers have a choice. They can vote with their feet.
And what other strategic reinventions did you discover in your survey? How are CEOs reinventing and re-strategizing to beat the competition to stay ahead?
Okay, so one of the biggest challenges the CEO have faced, for example, is the dollar devaluation. And they're saying, okay, how can we meet our dollar needs besides just depending on the federal government to allocate money to us? So you have to think of new routes to market. So using the West Africa is a route, using Africa is a route, focusing more on export, for example. So if you look at the guys in the cement industry, they have to think of how do we export our goods, that we bring in the foreign currency. So just sitting down on your local market alone, no longer the thing. You need to think of creative ways of generating the scarce foreign currency.
And is there any fear with, I know we've not gone so far in Africa with the AFCFTA,
yeah,
right? But is there any fear, now this is a global report,
yeah,
with your peers around the continent, is there any fear that the big economies will dominate the smaller ones once the AFCFTA kicks off?
I'm not sure you can totally eliminate that fear, but I think the question for me as a Nigerian is Nigerian maximizing its potential? Okay, I'm not thinking whether it's Ghana or Togo or Benin afraid of Nigeria, but I ask myself, with the AFTA, is Nigeria maximizing its potential? Is Egypt maximizing its potential? Is South Africa maximizing its potential? I'm not even sure we have fully maximized the potentials of the act. Okay, so we've not done that yet, so we shouldn't be even worried about the fears, because also all kind of issue that some companies are going to come and even though they're not fully African, they're going to come and establish in Africa and take advantage of that. But I think we are still in the very early days.
Because I've actually thought about that. I mean, a Chinese company could go to a low-cost African country, yes, use that as a base, yeah, and then we get to use Chinese products around and the rest.
Because they're not called Made in Africa.
Yeah, Made in Africa. So how can Nigerian CEOs how can they overcome this? How can they put their feet forward to build the things and provide the services that the rest of the continent needs?
So first of all, so for the CEOs to know that there's an opportunity and they need to take advantage of that. I know one of the big challenges we have in Nigeria is infrastructure, power, for example. So if you are not able to produce cheaper than another country, then you're not going to compete. I mean, all of a sudden we're talking about the Trump tariffs and co. If you are not able to produce cheaper, then you are not in the game at all. So for us as Nigerians is to rethink the strategy, to sit down with our government and say, look, we need incentives to help us to produce so we can dominate and truly take advantage of this act.
Now, I'm going to make this a little bit personal since you mentioned something. So, what if I was a chief executive officer and I'm saying, and I come to you, as a consultant.
Yes.
So, what do I need to do to overcome these things that are seemingly the government's responsibilities, but which the government is slow in bringing to bear, like power? You talked about power, forex challenges. What do I need to do to overcome these?
I think the CEOs already are almost a government to themselves as far as providing the infrastructure is concerned. If you go to Broad Street, thank God this is Broad Street.
Right, yeah.
If you go to Broad Street, the sheer number of generators is amazing.
True.
So they're already providing this. Of course, that's driving the cost of doing business. So they know that it's something that in your planning, your scenario planning, you already built that in. That, okay, for example, to agriculture, there's going to be bad roads, so how do I move my goods even with the bad roads? If you're a bank, I'm going to provide my own generator. If you're a hotel, I'm going to provide my own generator. So they're already doing the business, knowing that this is the reality of the situation. And I'm saying, despite the challenges in the environment, the CEOs are saying, look, we need to just continue to think on our feet and reinvent ourselves and think of new ways of doing business. Otherwise, we're going to be blown away.
So that means we need to give each CEO a pat on the back.
Oh, we should. We should. They are doing great.
And so now what can the government, and now let me take it to the government side. And if you are to advise the government, what should they be doing to, ease the burden of the economic instability on the chief executive officer, on the officers on the companies? Yeah, I know there are policies that are coming up, there are things. I mean, if 61% are optimistic that things are going to go well in the next 1 year, that means they're seeing some things like that a lot of Nigerians are not seeing, like you said. But what can the government do, provide us incentives to keep them running? Okay,
there are a lot of things the government can do. I'll just talk about one or two of them. One of them is to be consistent in your policy. Okay, if you have a policy, for example, and that's a well thought out policy, you need to consistently apply that policy. I think the biggest worries for CEOs is to have a policy A, and then you wake up tomorrow, because there's a change in government, even within the same party, okay? Because there are new persons now running, then their policies change. Now, for that CEO, that simply it blows away your business plan. So consistency in policy is very important. You need policies that are also very market friendly, because you're competing against the rest of the world, and the guys who are investing in your country need consistent policy and need consistent policies that are friendly to investment. So I think that's one thing the government can do. For example, tax policies. We see in Nigeria there are multiple taxes. Everybody is taxing you. And the guys are saying, excuse me, what is this? So you need to have policies that are consistent. You need to have policies that are market friendly. You need to have leaders of our ministries who understand business. Okay, you can't have a minister of trade, for example, who doesn't understand business. Otherwise, you're going to mess up you can't have a minister of finance who doesn't understand finance and economics. So you need policies that are consistent and that are well applied over the period of time and are very, very market friendly.
And so from your discussions, what are companies doing to add value to the abundance of materials, natural materials that we have in this country? Because one problem we have is that we have so many things that we export, raw materials that we export, without exactly adding value to them. Yeah.
Without sounding to be like a public relations officer for a company or two, if you look at the Dangote refinery, and I think the biggest investment in the country at the moment, okay, what we're trying to solve is that you have exported raw material, raw crude for a very long time. Can we sit down and refine? Okay, we can argue over what the price finally comes to, but I'm saying even if you're just saving yourself the cost of shipping to the country, that is a savings in itself. If you're saving yourself the demurrage that you have incurred if your ship baited in Apapa for days, that's a savings in itself. Of course, now we know that there will be employment for Nigerians. Okay, if you look at the Lekki Ekpe as is, the property price of property have boomed because right now there's demand for housing. So I think we need to take each sector of the economy and say, how can we, add value in agriculture? For example, instead of exporting raw cashew and raw, how can we, do even elementary processing, if I may use that word, before we export it? So I think we need to do that across the whole value chain. Gold is being exported raw, just name it. That is what we need to do as a country.
So I think my final question to you would be comparing Nigeria and Africa to the rest of the world, right? There is so much innovation happening around the world, artificial intelligence, there are electric vehicles everywhere. There are different things happening. How can Nigerian and by extension African companies stay competitive in such a world? Now let me give an example. We have several ISPs, internet service providers here in the country. But there are so many of us who are preferring to use Starlink, Elon Musk Starlink, because it's offering a kind of service that no other ISP is offering. Yeah. We could see in the future, we could see other companies doing similar things, bringing in technologies that we can't match in the immediate term, in the short term. How do African companies challenge these and stay competitive?
Okay, that's a tough one because competing against global powers. So if you're going to do, first you can look, just do business on the basis of economics of your, what you call your areas of strength, and play to your strength. But if you're going to take on the global powers, then you need to have sometimes the backings of government to take on the global powers. Because if you're looking at Elon for example, that's a large-scale investment. If you're an ISP, how do you take on a Starlink with the kind of backing they have? They're going to run you over. Yeah. So you need government support. You need to collaborate. But let's not take it away from ourselves. As Africans, I believe we are doing well. There are areas where we are stronger. We just need, like I say, consistent policies of government and encouragement of government to ensure that we play to our areas of strength and celebrate ourselves where we're doing well.
Or do you think import substitution is the way to go? There are people who are for it and people against it.
The trader in the street will want import, want to continue import. The guy who's very focused on manufacturing will want local production. But I think in the long run, local production is in for it because you create jobs locally, you add value, the foreign exchange you're looking for, you have it. So you need to continue to import substitute and produce things locally.
So how do you balance when the local products are not the quality that I want, if they're not what I want?
You use what you have to get what you want. Let's stick with it. If, for example, we said all Nigerians, ensure you buy Nigerian made cars, ensure your clothes is Nigerian made clothes, we won't stay there. We continue to improve. If you remember back then, when you want to laugh at China, you say that
exactly.
Yes, it's China made. But today, China is the manufacturer of the world. So we need to go back to our drawing board and let's produce Nigerian products. Let's patronize Nigerian products. Then we'll get better.
But that means the government has a lot to do with it. It's not just the chief executive officers.
Absolutely. The government has a role to play. We can't run away from that.
So from your survey, is there something else you would want Lagos to know from your survey globally? Something that I've not touched on.
Okay. So, we didn't survey the government. This is just private individuals, business owners. And clearly, I'm happy that they have a future. They see a future in Nigeria. And if you see a future in Nigeria, then you will invest in Nigeria. So the good news for us is that CEOs see a future in Nigeria and they're willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Thank you so much for your time.
Happy to be here, Hillary.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for, spending your afternoon with me, Mr. Pedro.
Omontuemhen. Yes.
Partner and West Market Area Clients and Market Leader at PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we'll have you some other time.
Look forward to another meeting.
Yeah, and I hope you actually tell me how to set up my own stuff. My boss here.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Shalatam, quality anti-malaria, contains Artemisa and lumefantrine, available in cherry-flavored dispersible tablets with very convenient dosing for kids. Shalatam is also available in tablets for adults. Knock out malaria in 3 days with Shalatam from Shalina Healthcare. If symptoms persist after 3 days, consult your doctor. Shalatam is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
Exciting games, music, dance, and fun for every family.
Join us for the second edition of the Kids FM Festival, happening June 1st, 2025 at Balmoral Convention Center, Lagos, 12 p.m. sharp.
Don't miss the fun! Don't miss the fun! Bring your brothers and sisters, your daddy and mommy, even your uncles and aunties to join this exciting moment. Even your friends aren't left out. It's the Kids FM Festival. Let's make memories that sparkle!
Register now at www.kidsfm.ng. Let the countdown begin. Proudly brought to you by Kids FM, where every kid's a star.
One of the biggest football fan festivals in Nigeria is back. It's Goal Fest 2025. Come turn up the energy. Goal Fest 2025 will also feature exhilarating games, food, and comedy. Come watch the UEFA Champions League finals on a super huge screen. Goal Fest 2025 will take place on the 31st of May 2025 at the Balmoral Convention Center, Federal Palace Hotel, Ahmadu Bello Way, Victoria Island, Lagos. Time 12 noon. Limited tickets available. Get your free tickets now at www.goalfestnigeria.com. Goal Fest 2025 is powered by Fenny and the Gang and Football Republic, sponsored by Squadron. Proudly refreshed by Pepsi.
They say truth sets you free. But in a world where news spreads fast and popular narratives shape opinions, how do you separate truth from deception? Introducing Facts or Propaganda, the show that puts the biggest social, political, and media narratives under the microscope.
More than 60% of the population is below the age of 30. A lot of them hadn't been to school. A lot of these young people are not employable.
Every week, we critically analyze narratives shaping our country, separating facts from clever manipulation. Who benefits from these narratives? What's real and what's just propaganda?
Unfortunately, paternity fraud is not a crime in Nigeria. Our laws are silent on this issue.
Join the conversation. Be part of the investigation. Tune in. Join Babatunde Abdusalam every Monday, 10 p.m. to 12 midnight on 99.3 Nigeria Info. And let's uncover the truth together. Fact or propaganda. Only on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Don't just believe. Investigate.
Everyone says I'm beautiful and bold. They say I'm fashionable. And to crown it up,
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.